We're talking Michigan State. They get together at the Big House on Saturday night with Steve Dace from Michigan Podcast. Please join him there for the best in Michigan football coverage. Of course, subscribe to my channel here on YouTube, and also with conversations like we're having here with Steve. You can catch the audio version only, long form on Stitcher, Podbean, and iTunes. Just search Mark Rogers TV. Talk about an unknown. In a certain sense, Michigan State's not necessarily an unknown, but in terms of where they rank, where they fall in the college football universe, Mark D'Antonio has built a powerhouse, despite what the recruiting rankings have told us should have been built. He has overachieved, but it looks like this Michigan State team, after a horrendous 2016 and winning one game in the Big Ten, has kind of settled into that level that we remember, Steve, from growing up. A lot of 7-5s and 6-6 type teams. We're back, of course, with the 11-game schedule, 7-4s and 6-5s, and a lot of 6-4-1s in there and the like. That's what it feels like, that they're just going to have a difficult time contending with the big three, but they have separated possibly from the other teams, albeit Indiana's pretty good. But your thoughts about Michigan State and what you've seen thus far? I have seen the Iowa and Notre Dame games, and I'm pretty comfortable with my observation at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a really good historical perspective that you just laid out. I think I told your audience this summer, in the research I had done, I had not found a Power 5 team going back over 50 years that had suffered an 8-loss decline in one season, like Michigan State did from 2015 to 2016. The furthest back I went was 1962, so like I said, more than 50 years, and that was at Louisville at a time that Louisville was actually not a Power 5 team, but they were in the Missouri Valley Conference. Okay, so it's historic, the implosion they had. Now, I have a hard time believing that a coach of his magnitude with the program he's built was just going to fall on his face suddenly. I also have a hard time believing he was going to be able to maintain that pace with Michigan's prominence, because, you know, Michigan State needs either Ohio State or Michigan to sort of be in a state of decline, because they have to recruit the Midwest. They're not a national recruiting team. They really need to at least tie Michigan in the state of Michigan, if not win that state. Well, Harbaugh has dominated recruiting in the state of Michigan the last 2 years, and I think that's going to have a massive impact on State's ability to compete for the Big Ten. But I also think he's too good of a coach to go 3-9. So I figured this year they would be somewhere between 5 and 7 wins. And when you look at the way they played so far, they haven't played any road games. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Against Notre Dame, I think they were -5 in turnovers. They did have over 500 yards of offense, but a lot of that came in garbage time when the game was pretty much decided. Against Iowa, they got off to a great start. It was 14-0 in the first quarter. They didn't barely do anything offensively the rest of the game at all. So what I think you're going to see is, going back to your historical perspective, is very similar to what we have seen in a lot of Michigan State games. Michigan just wants to win and get the damn game over with. Michigan State will play like it's the 7th game of the World Series, bottom of the 9th, with 2 outs. Okay, so that's what's going to happen. Michigan, I don't see that Michigan State has a personnel grouping advantage in the game anywhere. I think there are some places where they hold their own, but there's no place where I look and say, yeah, that's where they have a clear advantage. So I think weather may somewhat mitigate some of the circumstances if it rains as is forecasted. But I expect that this is a game Michigan will win somewhere between 8 to 14 points. My current prediction is 27-17 Michigan.
Wow, that's funny you say 27-17. As soon as you were starting your analysis of what could happen this Saturday, I knowing the 10-point spread, I was feeling just about the same score was running through my head. Brian Lewerke, I will call him, I'll put him in the gamer category. I'll put him in the good college quarterback category. He certainly doesn't have that skill set that would project to the next level. LJ Scott's the most talented running back, a kid that burst onto the scene 2 years ago in the college football playoff run and scored 13 touchdowns and almost had 1,000 yards, but he's had fumbling issues. Mark D'Antonio would like a primary back, as he typically does, to emerge. He doesn't like the running back by committee. I think the defense has righted the ship to a certain extent. They're a much better rush defense than they were last year, not giving up the big plays, playing sound defense, but nothing close to the premier teams that we saw defensively, and some of the cornerbacks that you named, Denard and Waynes in particular, and the no-fly zone that we saw in the 2012 to 14 range, they have not reached that level on defense, and we may never see that play at Michigan State again. Michigan State, we get the recap and the, I should say, the preview from Steve Deace from Michigan Podcast. Steve, we appreciate you dropping by and laying down some knowledge for us.
Always good to see you, Mark. Go Blue.